So today I want to talk about how do you juggle being a parent and being a leader, particularly in a startup where you are expected to work pretty hard, I'm not going to lie. And, what are the different things that you can do in order to help you manage that? So just a bit about me. My name's Alysha Randall. I'm a fractional CFO for Fast Growth Consulting, and I also run courses for new and aspiring finance leaders or CFOs within startups and scale-ups. And I wrote a book on that, Financial Leadership Fundamentals, as well. And I have two children. So one of them has just started high school and the other one is at the end of primary school. So I've still got a good 10 years of being a hands-on parent. I have heard that when you have children in high school, they take up just as much time as they do in primary school, but it's more emotional support rather than physical support. And obviously, being a woman, I had to deal with the whole being pregnant at work, maternity leave, the challenges there. So I'm not going to talk about that. That's a completely different topic. Rather, I'm going to talk about being a parent. And my husband is an amazing father and he is a very hands-on father as well. So the challenges that I have, he can certainly talk to them as well. Again, I'm not going to talk about gender roles and who does more. I'm just going to talk about juggling being a parent and working. And I would also say that for those of you who aren't parents, you may have something else that you're juggling, whether it's a sick parent or an unwell partner or some other thing in your personal life that actually takes up a lot of your time compared to the amount of time that you need to work as well. So some of these tips may be relevant for you even if you're not a parent, but I'm just going to focus on the things that worked for me, and or things that I'm still trying to work with running two companies essentially, having worked with two international businesses that exited, and you can imagine how much time that took. Both the Amazon acquisition and the IPO, both of them took up a huge amount of time, and having children. So these are the type of things that I think about what I'm trying to do. I'd probably also throw in study as well. So those of you who are still trying to become qualified accountants, or you've decided to do an MBA or what have you, trying to study at the same time as being a finance leader is also a real struggle. So I would say that, a lot of it, the things that have worked for me are very much trial and error. And sometimes I'm quite good at doing them, and then other times I'm not. And, this is not foolproof. I'm 100% not perfect. I definitely have days or weeks or months where I'm pulling my hair out. But I just wanted to kind of share things that have worked for me, particularly for people that are new into either finance leadership or having a significant thing outside work. So for me, I'd also say one of my biggest tips actually is you just need to give yourself some slack and lose some of the guilt. It's better said than done, obviously. As I said, I'm still learning how to do this, but everyone's trying to do the best that they can. And as it's impossible to be perfect. So try to be kind to yourself that, as particularly at the early stage of being a parent, I just thought I was a terrible mother and a terrible employee because I felt like I was failing at both, particularly dropping off my very young child or toddler at childcare and then going into work and then having to leave work early because I'm working 80%, not 100%, feeling that I'm failing at work as well. So it is a real challenge, and sometimes those feeling of guilt and shame and not good enough, I think, are quite normal. So we all need to kind of give ourselves some slack and realize that, we are doing the best that we can, and there's no such thing of having a perfect balance and being a perfect parent or perfect at work. So yeah, we all need to give ourselves some slack, I would say. So some of the things that have worked well for me, the first one is that morning routine. I mean, for me personally, I've had to try quite a few different things. I don't know if you've read the 5 a.m. routine, the early morning. I'm sure I've got it behind me somewhere. It's a yellow book. I think it's back there. The Miracle Morning, I think it's called. I personally can't do the miracle morning where you get up at 5 a.m. and spend the next 2 hours doing things like journaling and what have you. That doesn't work for me, largely because my children go to bed now close. By the time they're asleep, it's probably 9 p.m. I need an hour or two to myself before I go to sleep. And so I'm not waking up at 5 a.m. because for me, I need my 8 hours. So for me, that doesn't work. But what was good in that book actually, and the thing that I quite liked about it was thinking about structuring that morning and what are the things that are really important to you or really help you with your morning routine. So some people swear by staring at the sun, some people swear by meditating, some people swear by journaling. Whatever it is, it's finding something that works for you and then sticking to it. So it took me about 2 years. I'm not saying that it's going to take you 2 years, but it did take me 2 years to find out what worked for me. And what works for me is I always put a pint of water next to my bed. I scull that as soon as I wake up. I do wake up with an alarm because that's just me. And then I go and exercise for 45 minutes. And I do that before the kids need me. So at 8 a.m. I have to start making porridge. That's my requirement for my son. So I know that I wake up at 7, I have my pint of water, I go and do some exercise, whether that's at gym or at home, or I just go for a walk, I have a shower, and then I'm ready to deal with the kids and do porridge. I take him to school. So I must say that if I find that whether I'm sick or I'm overstressed or something, and I let that morning routine slide, I really it does really affect me. So that exercise for me is helps me because we're sitting at the desk all the time. It helps me with my body. I feel better because I'm exercising, but actually it's for me it is actually mental health. It's having that space to be by myself and get away. And actually, I would say it's more that than making sure I have the heart health, although that's a good bonus. Prioritization is a next big thing for me. So not all tasks are created equal. So, when you're at work, trying to identify what truly needs your attention that day and what doesn't, and managing your prioritization. So for me, I've used Kanban Flow and Trello and things like that just to get things out of my head. So I find that when I'm at home with the kids, I'm thinking about things that I shouldn't be thinking about, like work, and not giving them attention. And then also actually vice versa. Sometimes you're in a meeting and you're like, oh my God, I forgot to book my son's doctor's appointment or whatever it is. So I find a way, usually it's best to have it on your phone, a way of recording all of those thoughts down and putting them in a way that you'll remember. For me personally, I often think of things when I'm trying to go to sleep. If I don't, but I email them to myself basically. So I email from my personal email to my work, or work to personal, depending on what it is. And if I email it to myself, it's out of my head and I can go back to sleep. But I also find that with my kids, if I'm thinking about something about work, whether I leave myself a voice note or I open whatever task tool I'm using and just get it out of my head and onto it, then I can forget about it because I'm okay, I've dealt with it. It's there waiting for me for when I'm ready to log in. So I think in the earlier stage of being a parent, I spend way too much time thinking about things and it's spending way too much headspace. And I just found getting it out, and whether it, again, putting it in Kanban or Trello or whatever it is, or emailing it to myself, I get it out of there, excuse me, and I can focus on what I should be doing essentially. A big one is setting boundaries. I mean, this is quite a cliche term now if you're on TikTok or whatever. I'm not personally, I'm too old for that, but setting boundaries is probably something that's been talked about quite a lot, particularly with mental health. So I like to keep, I mean, it's very hard, working at home to keep my home life and work life as separate as possible. but I really like to clear work hours and communicate these boundaries between colleagues and family. It probably became more critical when I was working with someone, because then I'm negotiating, especially when I was working less than 100%, I was negotiating what was important to me and when I wasn't contactable. So still today, I like to be at the school gates 2 to 3 times a week. I was the same when I was working for a corporate. So it was very clearly saying, I want to be there 2 days a week for pick up my kids from school. So therefore, during that time, I'm not contactable. And therefore I can focus on the kids. And actually, to transition to that is the hardest part, because people are used to speaking to you all the time. But if you made that conscious decision, you just have to say no a few times, or not answer the phone, or not answer your Slack, or whatever it is, and set those boundaries, even if you have quite a pushy boss that keeps contacting you while you're doing that. Unless there's a fire, a proper fire, fair enough. But if it's not a fire, really try and stick to that. And it is hard to say no. People are better at it now, and I think particularly the younger generations are very good at setting their boundaries. So they're kind of helping us older Gen Xers to do that, who never said no, basically. So my calendar and Calendly link is blocked for certain times of the week, and I never waver on these. So normally I'd say yes to a meeting that I felt I should be there, and then failed miserably at both work and family. So hybrid working's obviously made that easier, where you can be much more flexible, but sometimes you really do need to say no. Slack and work email notifications are absolutely switched off my phone. Absolutely. If it's super urgent, they'll call you. Slack and work email notifications, I would never have that on my phone. I don't now as a business owner, and I certainly didn't when I was an employee. The next one is leveraging technology. So finance tools, apps, automate, repetitive tasks, can save your time. AI obviously can make everything much more efficient. So we're probably moving away from software and more into AI. There's certain things, outside work, I'm using grocery apps. I get milk delivered. If I don't have to be at the supermarket, I won't. I meal plan. I'm the cooker in the household, so I do Sunday prep when the kids are watching a movie. So there are like lots of things that I can try and do. And I think a lot of people are using ChatGPT for those kind of things as well. So if you don't have a VA, and a lot of people don't, then use AI as much as possible. I use it to help me meal plan. I tell ChatGPT, oh, these are the myriad of things that my family doesn't eat. My children are this age and this age. This is the type of, we like Mediterranean food, Italian, Southeast Asian food. Give me a list. Gives me a list, gives me a grocery list. I cross off the things I already know I have, upload that into my supermarket app, and job done. So it's trying to think of those things that can help you with your tasks. If you can afford a cleaner, amazing. If you can't, can you work out a schedule? Is there like other ways that you can make your life easier, basically? Delegating both at work and at home. So my children have a chore list that I get them to do. Yeah, they're just tiny, tiny tasks that they do, like setting the table or getting the milk out of the milk box. They're not overly massive, but I think you as a parent shouldn't be doing everything for the kids anyway. So both at work and at home, if you can delegate as much as possible. So it's that kind of short-term pain for long-term gain. You don't really want to fall in the trap of, oh, I'll just do it because it's faster. Because then you'll have to do it every single time. So for some small tasks at work that are difficult to explain, I often then use Loom to record myself doing the task once, and then I delegate it. So for me, this has been quite a game changer. And then, as I mentioned, at home, the kids have a chore chart. So there is, if you're in Australia, or if you are Australian, I would recommend Barefoot Kids by Scott Pabb. He's quite a good resource that helps you with teaching children about finances, and part of that is having a chore chart and pocket money and what have you. So check that out. The other thing is to really focus on quality time. So a lot of the things I've kind of mentioned help you with quality time, but making the most of your time with your children, engaging in activities that really foster that connection. I do find that with the kids, yeah, sure, on the weekend you can have a 4 hour time with them, but during the week they're also really busy. They've got their school, and with the little ones, that can really tucker them out, and you'll notice that at the end of term. But also they have all their extracurricular activities as well if they're, if they're able to. And so they're just as tired as as you are probably. Sometimes I find as long as you're around, particularly if you're working from home, that's ideal. They're pretty happy. And then if you do have a dedicated moment with them, so whether that's 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I mean, my kids like me to watch half an hour of TV with them in the afternoon. Then they're old enough that we're watching old reruns of Friends or Big Bang Theory or whatever. Or it's just sitting down with my youngest and encouraging him to read a chapter to me. And I think having that, again, I'm not a child psychologist, but I'm finding that my kids are pretty happy if I focus on them for 10 or 15 minutes. They're pretty happy. So I just find that if I had to look after the kids while using Slack or checking emails, it's really difficult. But if I try and sit with them for at least 15 minutes, give them 100% focus, then they're quite happy to go off and do their own thing over the longer time. So I've kind of managed to kind of foster the relationship by doing that way. Taking breaks, this is probably something I haven't learned as well, so maybe practice as I preach, not as I do. But, regular breaks can improve focus and reduce stress. But most days I'm able to go for a walk, even just 30 minutes. And I find that that really helps, even if it's bucketing with rain, like it often does here in London. Just going outside for 30 minutes I find really useful. So if you can take a break, even just 15 minutes to dash out and buy a coffee and come back again, I just find that helps with my focus in the afternoon. Staying organized, so keeping your work and home spaces tidy. There isn't saying a clutter-free environment can lead to a clutter-free mind. Easier said than done, especially in really small houses in London. I probably don't do this as well as I should, but I do feel better when I do. I'm not going to turn my camera around because I have got piles next to me, but it's been bothering me and I'm going to try and clean it up this week. But if you are able to organize things, the better. I do find a couple of organizational things I find really helpful is having a weekly chart on the fridge. And for each kid, it's what they need to bring to school on that day, and then what are they doing after school. So, and we also have a family Google Calendar that keeps track of all the social events. So I find that super useful. So even if I'm not there, who generally remembers these things, there's a chart there that everyone can use and help them with everything. The next one is to ask for help. So it's okay to ask for support when you need it, whether it's from your partner, a trusted friend, a professional, family member. I've only kind of managed this over the last few years, especially with friends who have kids the same age. So I don't have any family that lives in the UK, so I have had to lean on friends before. And with friends, again, who have kids the same age, we now often take care of each other's kids when required. We share drop-offs, have sleepovers, what have you, and that's really helped for me. The other things that I've also find is staying connected as well, maintaining that open communication with team and family. Regular check-ins can really help address issues before they become bigger problems in one-to-one meetings with all of your team. Having most of my family live in Australia, we kind of implemented a regular Monday morning Zoom call during COVID, and we've kind of still kept it today. So I know that I speak to my family at least once a week, which is like a nice way for me to start the week. So I don't feel like I'm falling behind on everything. And then finally, enjoying your downtime. So don't forget to really take time out for yourself, do something you enjoy, whether it's reading a book or listening to music or having a bath or whatever it is. So helping you to recharge and face the next day with renewed energy. I think this is really important. I can again struggle with this one sometimes. Sometimes I find myself working until 10:30 at night and keeping the study door closed while everyone's going to bed. And so sometimes I can be quite bad at this one, but it's probably good to have this reminder from me, not just you. Just again, we're not all perfect, but my husband does say to me a lot, you need to learn to relax. And I have just signed up for a 6 weekly course of learning how to hit a golf ball at a driving range. So hopefully that gives me something to focus on, rather just get frustrated at golf rather than frustrated with work. But anyway, I think it's really important to learn that. So, life as a working parent is a real delicate balancing act. I'm still learning. You're probably still learning. I'm definitely not doing anything perfect, and probably in 10 years' time, I'll say, oh, in hindsight, I probably could have done that better. But, trying to put in strategies that work for you, as I said, it is a bit of a trial and error. What works for me definitely won't work for everybody. So, yeah, if you have things that really work to manage your routine at juggling as a parent, please do comment below. But yeah, it really is trying not to achieve perfect balance. I don't think that works, but just trying to find what works best for you and your family it's always a work in progress. But rather than just trying to do it all without having any strategies, I think is where you can run in a bit of trouble. Anyway, so thanks so much for watching. If you're interested in becoming a confident and skilled finance leader in the next 12 months, then please do click on the subscribe button below. I send out videos every Thursday morning, so you can check that out. You also might want to have a look at my book, Financial Leadership Fundamentals, How to Become a CFO in a Startup or Scale Up. It goes through a lot of case studies, a lot of mistakes I've made in my career, and help you get to that next level. Or you might want to have a look at the FLF course that gives you regular support, where we have calls every single month to go through your particular situation. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Cheers.